What's up, co-reporters, and welcome back to my channel. It looks as though Prince William has all but lost his protection from the royal rota. They are rightfully calling him out for the BS that has been his working hours in 2024. Listen, he always has had a reputation of being rather lazy, Kate as well. So it's not surprising that the two of them have not really been up to all that much this year. Kate did have some health complications, but nonetheless, the two of them really have been taking the piss this year when it comes to their engagement numbers, especially when you compare it to King Charles, who is an elderly man in his 70s who is outworking both of them even combined. It's a lot. And considering the amount of money that these two are paid, it makes sense that the press is getting tired because, listen, they need for these two to be out and about, moving and grooving, shaking hands, kissing babies in order to feed the machine. When Kate and William, Charles and Camilla all are out there being seen, that allows the press to write articles about them, what they're wearing, what they're doing, and articles translate into money. So obviously right now, with a lack of movement from William and Kate, they are getting frustrated and they are starting to question all of these excuses. Now, let's get into an article published by Newsweek about Prince William's lack of work ethic and how it is that his elderly father has worked twice as many engagements as him this year, despite being the one who actually has cancer. It is not scathing because Newsweek aims to be fair. And actually, on that topic, we're going to discuss how kind of like weak their audience is and how they hate to see these people be held to account at all. So just keep that in mind. They're going to call it out in a very frank and fair way. And they're still going to get criticized for this article. So while I read this article to you, I want you to think about whether or not you think it's fair and balanced, or if you think it's harsh or anything like that. And then later we're going to convene on the general consensus, okay? So the article is entitled, King Charles Worked More Days Than Prince William Despite Cancer. It's a very matter-of-fact title. There's no, shame on Prince William. There's no this, you know what I mean? It's just, these are the facts. Who are the people concerned? Charles and William. What is the subject? Working, and who worked more than the other. And there's a little bit of a caveat here. King Charles is in his sunset years with cancer, and he's still out working the young buck who is not ill. So let's take a look at the article. It's already got 127 comments. I haven't yet read the comments. I only read the fair ranking at the bottom. So, I'm going to be reading the comments for the first time alongside you guys. Now, the article starts as, and I quote, Prince William worked on fewer days than his cancer-stricken father in 2024 while pocketing a salary of almost $30 million, according to Newsweek analysis of the court circular. Now, isn't that amazing to think that you can work so little? And mind you, these are days that they're working, not like full days. Like when they do one meeting, how you have meetings, multiple meetings for a week at work. No, imagine if your job was only to show up to a meeting for a day and call that a work day. And you're making $30 million for that. Insane. The Prince of Wales was recorded undertaking engagements on 71 days, while King Charles III worked on 118 days in 2024, the royal family's official diary shows. Now, 71 days, again, he did not work 71 full 8-hour days. Okay, he only, did little things on 71 days. Sometimes there were big things, sometimes there were little things. On average, they're small things. Okay, now 71 divided by 365 days in the year means that this man only worked for 20% of the year, and he made $30 million. What about King Charles? He worked double, so we will say 118 divided by 365. I forgot what the percentage was. So 32% of the years. Both of them, it's a little bit extreme. But to be fair, King Charles is in his 70s. Typically, people are retired and not working in their 70s. But also, to be fair, he never really worked all that much in life, even when he was, working age. So whatever. Now, the mismatch comes at a time when Prince William has been under added pressure due to a significant spike in his income since becoming the next in line to the throne. William took over control of property portfolio, the Duchy of Cornwall, when Queen Elizabeth II died, and it gave him an annual income of £23.6 million or $30 million in the year up to April 2024. Anti-monarchy campaign group Republic argues that the estate should be taken into public ownership and used to fund schools, hospitals, and other public services. Now, I want to know how you guys feel, those of you who are living in England or those of you who are a part of the Commonwealth. Do you think that, the money in the Duchy of Cornwall should be used to actually, help people, or should it be used to continue to further line the pockets of people who are already rich for doing quite literally nothing? Now, King Charles's workload during cancer treatment in 2024. Charles was admitted to the London clinic in January for a routine procedure on an enlarged prostate, during which doctors identified an additional issue. He was diagnosed with an undisclosed form of cancer after tests. The king began chemotherapy in early February and reduced his workload, but continued to have meetings in person at royal residences. During this period, he undertook 2 engagements in January, 3 in February, 13 in March, and 4 in April, the last of which was his return to community visits. While continuing his treatment, the king increased his workload, conducting 50 engagements over May. That's actually a lot for a month, especially again at his age and for a royal. June and July, including high profile events like the state opening of Parliament, Trooping the Color, and commemorations of the 80th anniversary of the Normandy landings in France. He continued meetings, but at a slower pace in August, which the royals traditionally spend holidaying at Balmoral in Scotland, and in September. In October, Charles and Queen Camilla braved a long haul flight to Australia, his first visit to a country outside Britain that recognizes him as king since his succession in 2022. They went to Samoa for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting on the same trip. So he's doing these huge long flights, at his age and in his state of health, far away from, his hospital in case anything were to go wrong. And what is his son doing? Crickets. November was marked by a week of remembrance, culminating in the annual Remembrance Sunday service at the Cenotaph in London, though he also found time for The Gladiator to premiere. In total, the court circular recorded 16 days of in person meetings in October and 15 in November, which again is rather impressive for a royal. Prince William's workload in 2024. Prince William also took time off work in the early part of the year after Princess Kate had abdominal surgery in January, but pressure for his return grew after the king's diagnosis in February. He carried out 1 day of engagements in January, 4 in February, 6 in March, and 4 in April. William increased the pace in May and June when he did 10 and 13, including his part in the 80th anniversary of the Normandy landings and Trooping the Color. He dropping back to 5 in July, and had no official meetings in August when the Wales family took time out to enjoy their summer holiday. In September, he had official meetings on 7 days, compared to 8 in October and 13 in November when he took his Earthshot Prize ceremony to Cape Town, South Africa. We did not include attendance at weekly church services, but we did include William's attendance at a number of soccer matches recorded in the court circular, since he is the president of English football's governing body, the FA. How amazing it would be to consider going to a sporting event as, doing work. I would love that. In fact, for myself, I would love for the festivals and the concerts I attend, perhaps the bars, the movies I watch, to be considered working hours. Listen, this is tongue in cheek. I do understand that is part of his role as the president of English football, but I do think it's interesting that he shows up to this a lot more than he shows up to other things, right? There are many patronages that did not see him at all this year. There are many things that he could have been doing for actual everyday people versus for already rich soccer players, but I digress. The prince has spoken a number of times now about what he calls, quote, impact philanthropy, which is charity work that aims to make a significant difference in society. Quote, I can only describe what I'm trying to do, and that's I'm trying to do it differently, and I'm trying to do it for my generation, he told the BBC. It's more important about impact philanthropy, collaboration, convening, and helping people. And I'm also going to throw empathy in there as well, because I really care about what I do. It helps impact people's lives. And I think we could do with some more empathetic leadership around the world. Is that why you were a slumlord? Is that why you're like places that you were renting out to your patronages and to everyday British citizens are not up to code? Is that why there are mold in the houses that you were charging people to rent while you were sitting in your palace? I'm just curious. In fact, I'm not. I'm asking for a friend. In that respect, he might well argue that the true benefit of a project like Earthshot cannot be properly measured by the number of engagements recorded in the court circular. However, his perspective is a matter for debate, and Tina Brown, author of The Palace Papers, has been among those to suggest William's approach may not be as different to his father's as he suggests. Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip were famous for their simple approach to monarchy, visiting communities all over Britain and meeting enough people that by the time of her death, 30% of the country had seen her in person. Charles then carved out a more elaborate role as heir to the throne, focusing on major projects like the Prince's Trust, which seeks to boost employment opportunities for young people. However, he maintained a significant level of public visits and engagements, ensuring he's always regarded amongst the hardest working royals, jockeying for position with Princess Anne. Prince William and Prince Harry took a slightly different approach, performing fewer engagements but aiming to have a bigger impact. The Duke of Sussex outlined his own frustration with the court circular in his book, Spare. So this is where we get into what Harry had been saying about the court circular. And I do want to note, like, it's super fair to his brother William, because William and Kate have always had the reputation of just being the least engaged, doing the least amount of hours, just not being hardworking royals in general. And so Harry tries to defend them by saying, listen, like, a lot of people in the royal family will puff up their numbers by, counting like the most random things, like shaking someone's random hand, or like doing some random, nonsensical meeting, hosting someone like for tea or something as working. And that's just not stuff that William and I do. So let's look at his exact words. Quote, "The court circular was an ancient document, but it had lately morphed into a circular firing squad. It didn't create the feelings of competitiveness that ran in my family, but it amplified them, weaponizing them. Though none of us ever spoke about the court circular directly or mentioned it by name, that only created more tension under the surface, which built invisibly as the last day of the calendar year approached. Certain family members had become obsessed, feverishly striving to have the highest number of official engagements recorded in the circular each year, no matter what, and they'd succeeded largely by including things that weren't, strictly speaking, engagements, recording public interactions that were mere blips, the kinds of things that Willie and I wouldn't dream of including. Now, I do wonder who he is hinting at there. Is he hinting at Anne? Is he hinting at Charles? Is he hinting at Camilla? It could be anybody. While much of Prince Harry's, and here's the thing, is he being honest about he and William and how they're only like logging impactful things, or is this just like him hiding for cover for the both of them, and the fact that they were not really logging numbers that were all that respectable compared to other members of the family? I don't know. Now, while much of Prince Harry's account serves as a defense of William too, some of his perspective, in fact, unwittingly heaps further pressure on his older brother. Quote, "The main reason the court circular was a joke, a scam, was that none of us was deciding in a vacuum how much work to do. Granny or Pa decided by way of how much support or money they allocated to our work. Money determined all. In the case of Willie and me, Pa was the sole decider. It was he alone who controlled our funds. We could only do what we could do with whatever resources and budget we got from him." At the time that Harry's referring to, Charles bankrolled Harry and William to the tune of £4.5 million in total, using money from the Duchy of Cornwall. Now, listen, when Harry talks about the fact that it was his father's funding that decided, like, how much money they got to use towards, like, popping up for charity and whatnot, I do believe that, of course. I think that that is public record. And it kind of is in line with some of the stuff that he said earlier on in the book. So in the book, he talks about Charles being jealous of his own sons and competitive with his own sons, and not just Charles, but Camilla as well. We had learned about them, being competitive with the children behind the scenes. So I do think that Charles probably, when he was controlling the Duchy of Cornwall, I believe that he would kind of try to sabotage the boys in order to continue to bolster his own public profile. Like that, I would not put past him at all. Okay. But although that was the case back then when Charles was in charge of the Duchy of Cornwall, William now controls the Duchy of Cornwall, meaning that there should not be any kind of financial restraints to him when it comes to showing up and showing out for charity. Okay. And yes, again, there has been some issues with Kate's health, although it's not been really confirmed what exactly it is that went on. There have been a lot of mixed messaging stories There has been fake photos released in order to cover up for certain things. We really don't know what's going on with Kate, but at the same time, it feels like an extreme when it comes to the fact that neither one of them have stepped out in the entire year. They have used the children as excuses, as they have pretty much since the children were born, but the children are in school, so again, it begs the question, what is it that is going on that William, at the very least, cannot show up for his own patronages, especially when there's just not enough people out there representing the royal family. And the royal family needs to be present now more than ever to show to the people that they are still relevant and that they are necessary and that they actually do things. Back to the article. Not even in a year when there was an active public debate about how short-staffed the royal family was, owing to Charles and Kate's health problems. Now, let's get into the fairness meter. So at the end of Newsweek's articles, they have a fairness meter where they tell us that they're committed to journalism that's factual and fair. Do you think that it was fair? Do you think it was unfair? Left-leaning, right-leaning, where do you vote? I voted on fair because, listen, they announced what was going on. They shared the facts. They did not share any personal opinions or anything like that. They just said, listen, this person is not working a lot. A person who is, sick with cancer is outworking him. In the past, there was an excuse used, which was that his engagements were controlled by his father's finances, but now he's the one who has the finances to do as much as, he wants. And, the numbers still aren't hitting. They mentioned that his wife had some sort of health issues. So like all the facts were laid out and it's up to you to leave your own opinion. So that's why I voted fair. But the most popular rating is what? Unfair. And it's because it calls out William for being lazy. And one thing about William and Kate is that their followers, like, they really hate to see these people held accountable or treated as adults who should be, actually working or doing things for their public. And yeah, so I think that is why it's been voted that way. So now when we go to the comment section, this is the first time I'm seeing the comments. There are 129 comments in total. Someone is saying that they hope that William gets a raise next year since it's all his money. It seems to me a certain uncoupling is jealous, and one cannot explain to those who have no understanding of finances of the duchies. If King Charles can't work, then he must step aside, but the monarch seems to be steady at the moment. Keep going, William and Catherine. So I think it's interesting that they're saying, okay, if King Charles can't work, he can't step aside, but the article is about how Charles is outworking William. He has done double the engagements of William. William has done 74, I think, and Charles has done 118. So why is this person saying that Charles needs to step aside because he can't work? Maybe they read it in reverse. I don't know. Now, King Charles should work more days. He is the monarch. Additionally, King Charles does not have young wife with cancer and 3 kids, unlike the squatties. Well, here's the thing. King Charles doesn't have a wife with cancer because he's the one with the cancer. And, he doesn't have a young wife or isn't young because he's old with cancer and still out working, And again, okay, you've got 3 kids, but you've got a staff for these 3 kids, and the 3 kids are in school during the day. Again, the excuses that these people will make up are just absolutely astounding. Anyway, so yeah, there are 120 something comments if you guys want to continue to go ahead and read more of that. But yeah, it really seems like people do not like to see William and Kate held accountable or be asked to do any sort of work. And, they are now calling it unfair that Newsweek is pointing out how William hasn't really done much of anything all year. Anyway, guys, what do you guys think about all of this? It really seems like the protection is starting to be lifted from them, and I'm not surprised. I think at a certain point, you got to be honest and you have to say that this is unacceptable, that you are making $30 million to do quite literally nothing. You've got excuses up the wazoo. I'm sorry that your wife has health problems, but that is the way that the world works, right? Like, unfortunately, millions, if not billions of people around the world have various health issues, have cancer. It's a very, very sad thing, but it is the way it is. Millions of people who have cancer still work. Millions of people whose spouses have cancers still work. In fact, sometimes they work even harder because they do not have the health insurance and they need to come up with the money to pay for treatment. Parents work. Billions of people are parents and they work 1, 2, 3 jobs. This is not special. And these people don't even have live-in nannies. They do not have chefs. They do not have groundskeepers. All the things that William and Kate have that would make it even more possible for them to work more than the average parent, if they needed to, because they're not doing these other things that parents are doing outside of, just parenting their kids. They're cooking, they're cleaning, They're mowing the lawn, they're shoveling the snow, things that William and Kate do not have to do, meaning that they've got even more free time than the average person. And again, yeah, they've got kids, but these are not kids that are home all day. These are kids who are in school. So the excuse really is, to me, it's a bit ridiculous, but I digress. I want to know what you guys have to say about this. Let me know in the comment section down below. And as usual, we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.